The auction hall was suffocatingly silent, filled with whispers and heavy perfume that mingled with the metallic scent of fear. Shackled figures knelt on the raised platform, each one waiting for their value to be shouted and traded like objects. The crowd of nobles and pack leaders feasted their eyes on desperation, greed sparking in every gaze. One by one, the Omegas were sold. Fragile, beautiful, unscarred. Their worth was measured by flawless skin and obedient silence. The crowd murmured approval, raised hands heavy with jewels, exchanged fortunes as if they were bartering for art. And then came him, the last of the group. The scarred Omega, chains dragged as he was pulled forward, head bowed, hair falling over his face in matted tangles. His frame was lean, malnourished, yet his aura, quiet, heavy with something unspoken, made the hall hesitate. Across his skin ran jagged reminders of survival. Claw marks down his back, burns etched along his arm, a deep gash slashed across his cheek. The auctioneer cleared his throat, already uneasy. Lot 72, male Omega, 20 years of age, skilled in combat training, resistant temperament. The words fell flat. Combat, resistance. These were not what the bidders wanted. They wanted beauty. They wanted silence. They wanted soft obedience. Murmurs spread, lips curled in distaste. Scarred, defiant, damaged goods, not worth the price of food. The auctioneer forced a smile. Opening bid, 200 gold. No hand rose. The silence grew louder, suffocating. The Omega lifted his head just slightly, and his eyes, bright, cold, like fire in the dark, swept over the crowd. No plea, no begging. Just defiance. And that sealed his fate. The whispers turned to scoffs. Unsellable. Should be put down. Who would want a scarred Omega like that? The auctioneer's voice faltered. 100. Then, anyone. Still, no one moved. The Omega smirked bitterly, almost daring them. He'd long since accepted that no pack would want him, no alpha would claim him. He was too broken, too marred to fit into their shallow world. Perhaps rejection was mercy. Then the air shifted. Heavy footsteps echoed against marble. The crowd stiffened, as though prey sensing a predator. The doors at the end of the hall swung open, and the Alpha King stepped in. Tall, broad-shouldered, radiating an aura so powerful the crowd instinctively bowed their heads, throats bared. His presence was thunder, his gaze a storm that silenced every whisper. Draped in black and gold, his crown rested casually upon his head, but his eyes, sharp and piercing, locked onto the stage. The Omega. Gasps rippled through the crowd as the Alpha King walked forward, unhurried. Every step carried authority, every breath a reminder that this was no ordinary Alpha. This was the one whose claws ended wars, whose command toppled kingdoms. He stopped at the edge of the platform. The Omega met his gaze, unflinching. Defiant still, though his chest ached from the weight of that power pressing against him. The auctioneer nearly tripped over his words. Why, your majesty? Surely this lot is beneath. I'll take him. The hall erupted. Shock, horror, disbelief. The Alpha King's voice left no room for debate. He didn't raise his hand, didn't ask for a price. He simply claimed, as was his right. Chains clinked as the Omega was shoved forward. The king's men stepped up, unfastening shackles at his command. And for the first time in years, the scarred Omega was free. The journey back to the king's territory was tense. The Omega sat across from him in the carriage, body rigid, eyes narrowed. Why? His voice was rough, gravel scraped raw from years of silence. The king studied him. Why what? Why bid? Why me? The king leaned back, regarding him with unreadable eyes. Because you didn't beg. The Omega blinked. They all begged, the king continued. Cried, pleaded, offered themselves like cattle. But not you. You looked at them as though you saw through every mask, every lie. That kind of spirit doesn't break easily. The Omega scoffed. So I'm a challenge to you. A trophy to prove you can tame even the unwanted one. The king's jaw tightened, but amusement flickered in his eyes. If I wanted a trophy, I'd have taken the most beautiful of the lot. I don't need to prove myself. I chose you because scars tell a story, and I want to know yours. The Omega looked away, heart pounding despite himself. Life in the king's stronghold was unlike anything he expected. He wasn't caged. He wasn't chained. The rooms were luxurious, though he kept to the shadows, wary of the sudden kindness. Servants bowed to him, but he distrusted their pity. Days passed. The king didn't force him. Didn't touch him without consent. He gave him freedom, gave him silence when needed, and only spoke when words mattered. At first, the Omega resisted. He refused food, refused conversation, refused to bend. But the king never raised a hand, never ordered, never punished. Instead, he waited, patient, relentless in his quiet watchfulness. It unnerved him more than cruelty ever had. One night, unable to sleep, the Omega wandered into the training yard. Memories clawed at him. Memories of battles fought when he was nothing but a pawn, an expendable soldier thrown into blood-soaked fields. He picked up a blade, twirling it with muscle memory. His scars throbbed under the moonlight. "You fight like an alpha," a voice said behind him. The king stood there, arms crossed, watching. The Omega gritted his teeth. "I was trained to fight, not to be owned." "Good," the king said simply. "I don't need a pet. I need a partner." The word hit harder than any chain. Partner. The Omega scoffed, though his throat burned. "You think scars make me fit for a crown?" The king stepped closer, his presence wrapping around him like heat. "Scars make you fit for survival. And survival is worth more than beauty." For the first time, the Omega faltered. Weeks turned into months. The walls around him began to crack. Slowly, unwillingly, he found himself watching the king. The way he commanded respect without cruelty. The way he bore the weight of his crown but still found moments to stand beneath the stars, quiet, human. The king, too, learned him. His silences, his rage, his laughter when it finally broke free like sunlight after storms. They clashed often, two storms colliding, but each battle carved out something deeper. Respect, understanding, something dangerous neither dared to name. But danger had a way of finding them. Whispers spread. The court murmured behind gilded doors. An Omega on the throne. Scarred, tainted, unworthy. They called him weakness. They called him shame. Enemies circled like vultures, waiting for the king to falter. And then came betrayal. An ambush. The Omega was the target. Blades in the dark, assassins sent to erase what they called the king's mistake. He fought with fury, scars burning as he defended himself, but they overwhelmed him, until the king arrived, claws bared, eyes glowing gold with rage. Together, they fought, back to back, Alpha and Omega, scars and crown, defiance and power entwined. When the dust settled, bloodied but alive, the king turned to him. "You are not my weakness," he growled, voice trembling with fury. "You are my strength." The Omega's chest cracked open with something he'd long buried. For once, he believed it. The court tried to resist. They whispered, they plotted, they demanded the king cast him aside. But the Alpha King stood before them all, the Omega at his side, and declared, "This is no broken thing. This is my chosen, scarred not by shame, but by battles survived. And he will stand as my equal, or not at all." The hall fell silent. No one dared defy him. And so the scarred Omega, once left unwanted on an auction block, became the heart of a kingdom. Not because he was flawless, but because he was unbreakable. And beside him, the Alpha King found not a servant, not a trophy, but a mate worthy of the throne.